think it's gut with guardrails. You've got to try some stuff that's pure gut. But if you don't learn from it and you don't optimize afterwards and you don't run metrics on it afterwards, then it wasn't worth it, right? If you can't learn from the gut experience, then what are you doing? Make sure your guardrails are in place. Make sure you know where the limits are. Make sure you understand if you're breaking a rule, why you're breaking it. Then go with your gut. And then after that, measure the hell out of it.
In today's world, how does a brand break through the noise and become iconic? Join me, Jason Harris, as I speak with the world's leading marketing experts about how they use soul and science to build an iconic brand. Think of it as EQ meeting IQ. So let's lock in and together fast forward our marketing minds on the Soul and Science podcast. On this episode of Soul and Science, I sit down with Ben Whitla, head of brand and marketing at Slate Auto. We're going to explore what it really takes to scale creativity without killing creativity. From launching Slate with a logo-less car that sparked internet sleuthing and over 100,000 reservations, to navigating the tension between brand and performance, Ben will share how bold ideas survive inside growing companies. If you've ever wondered how to build momentum without losing your edge, this episode is for you. Welcome to the podcast, Ben.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Ben Whitla. All right. I always start every episode the same way. I want to know the Ben origin story and how you got to where you are today, because I know you worked, agency side, client side. How did you start? And did you go to school for marketing? How did you get into marketing?
I think the first important story starts even before that. My parents were a kindergarten teacher and a carpenter, which meant that my job in high school was construction. I was not very good at construction. And so I did a lot of things like dumpster reorganization. And while doing that, I was teaching myself how to code websites on the side. And one day on the job site, I'm using the porta potty and I look up and it's got like handyhouse.com written on it. And I'm like, it's long enough ago that you're like, why does this porta potty have a website? Went to the website, scrolled to the bottom, found the company that made it. They were 15 minutes away from where I grew up in Massachusetts. Called them up and was like, I want to make websites for you. I can code, I can design, I can do everything. I was like 17 years old. I barely knew what I was doing. And they basically were like, yeah, come on in. Went in, got the job, quit construction. And that's really how it began. I've always been someone who totally learns on the job and teaches myself.
So if you didn't have to go to the bathroom on that day.
Right, exactly. Could have been totally different.
However many
Could have been
years
totally
ago.
different if I didn't have to use the porta potty that day.
Yeah. So, yeah.
My college degree is in printmaking, which is not incredibly useful day to day. I was a letterpress printer for a couple of years after college, but the whole time I was doing graphic design on the side. And that's really what I loved. And it's, at night I was using offcuts from the letterpress printing and designing flyers for local shows, things like that. Built myself up a portfolio and got a job in graphic design. And I think this is where it gets weird, right? Like, I'm a graphic designer by trade. I learned marketing on the job over the last 20 plus years. And really for me, when I look back, it was like, okay, I love building brands. I love designing brands. But if you're going to design a brand, well, you got to learn how to sell it. So you got to learn the strategy. You got to figure out how brand strategy works, right? And then you got to bring those designs to the people. So you got to learn how advertising works. And how does advertising work? Well, if you're going to do advertising, you got to figure out how it gets to the people. That's the performance and growth marketing side of the business. So I bolted on the pieces of understanding how to be a marketer over the last 20 years, partially, through intentional career decisions and partially through, just luck and paying attention real closely.
What was the big break that went from design and execution into was there like a specific, was it slowly over time or did you have a specific jump?
No, I know exactly the moment. I was at Great Big Story. So another company that I helped build a handful of years ago now. It was a media company. And I came in as creative director and I left running brand partnerships and creative. And so during my time there, I switched from just building the brand and the creative side of the business to, driving revenue, owning brand partnerships, building deals and deal structures with potential advertisers and partners. So for me, that was the transition from, you know, being a cost center to driving revenue and understanding how that impacts the business, and then taking that and understanding more broadly what it means. So like understanding what the impact is for other brands to come to us, get visibility, be marketed through us. All of that for me was the defining moment in my career where it was like, oh wait, there's more to just doing the graphic design part of this job and driving the creative. You could be part of the business machine. And I actually really enjoyed that side of it.
And so that was really a startup from CNN, Great Big Story which was making your own content, episodic content online. And the, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah. And that was back when short form video on the internet still meant like 4 to 7 minutes. That was short back then.
There wasn't layers in a lot of people, so you had to wear multiple hats in order to drive that business.
Exactly right. We built it from the 3 founding members up to 100 people during my time there, and so we built everything on our own, and it was an absolute blast. Honestly, it was where I fell in love with working through the gray areas, right? Like working through the unknown in building a company and building a brand, a lot of which I brought to Slate today. And part of what I love about Slate is that like we are constantly trying to figure out how to get things done. And I love that unknown, even though I am someone who absolutely relies on the black and white in life. I find it easy to categorize things in my brain. For whatever reason, I love the gray in business.
From Great Big Story, were you done with the agency world and you were sort of on brand side, or did you go back?
I thought I was done with the agency world. But a good buddy of mine who we both know, Ross Martin, at the time was starting an agency called Known, and called me over and said, come build this thing with me. And I was like, yep, I want to learn from you. Let's do it. So was there to help build Known from the beginning.
How long were you there?
A couple years, I think. And it was an absolute blast. Had a lot of really fun projects, did a lot of stuff. And again, helping Ross and Kern over there actually build the thing was a lot of fun. But I had that feeling during that time of, boy, I miss the long-term engagements that you get from being brand side. I miss being able to say, we're not talking about the next 6 or 8 months. We're talking about the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And after being agency side again, that was my last time agency side. I really was like, okay, I got to get back brand side. I really got to focus on being brand side.
What do you think you're particularly good at that makes you successful?
I think I consistently can help brands find the white space in their market. I can help uncover the place in a market, in an existing market, in a new market where no brand is playing. I think if you look at Great Big Story, that was the core of what we did. At the time, we looked at, BuzzFeed creating sort of happy, vapid videos, Vice creating sort of sad, angry, the world is ending videos. And we were like, well, where's the middle? Where is a positive look at the world through documentary storytelling? And like, that's what we did. We're like, here's the white space in this market today. And it was right at the time. And it's the same thing we're doing with Slate right now, right? Like, I mean, look at the auto industry. Everything has been the same from a marketing and storytelling perspective there for so long. What does a car reveal look like? It looks like 2 headlights in the dark. It looks like a car under a sheet, shot from far away that you hope is the car you think it's going to be. That's been true for as long as they've been launching cars, basically, and it hasn't really shifted. And so when we looked at, building the Slate brand and launching the Slate brand, we basically looked at, automotive in general, but also direct consumer brands in general. Like, what feels unexpected and interesting here in a way that people will actually care? And that's how we approach it. So, to actually answer your question, I love looking at the landscape of a market, a competitive landscape, and figuring out like, where's nobody playing and how do we take advantage of that? And how do we get super loud? How do we maximize the volume of being a little bit different in that white space?
So you're Mr. White Space. And then also finding that uniqueness and then sticking with it.
Getting that box as small as possible, getting that world you live in as little as you can, and then cranking the volume to 11.
So Slate Auto is a US EV startup. It's low cost. You can configure it, convert it to an SUV. It's really about intentionally being simple.
Yes.
That's kind of a white space for it.
Yeah.
It's got limited features and tech, and that helps you keep the cost down and keep it simple. So you're really targeting EV product to a different market. So how do you think about, for our audience, how would you describe what Slate Auto is and what the white space is that you found for it?
Listen, you did a great job, so
Oh,
thanks.
thank you so much.
No, I think, listen, if you look at the automotive landscape, cars are getting bigger, they're getting more complicated. You're paying for a screen. Go look at a car from 5 years ago. What instantly tells you how old that car is that big screen that looks like it's from 1973, even though it's only 5 years old, right?
And then a million things can break down on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Oh,
all those
yeah.
components, like, trust me, I've spent $1 gazillion on my.
You're exactly right. And, the high percentage of, vehicle issues do come from all that, digital technology. Yeah. And so, we like to say we took everything out so the consumer can pick only what they want to put back in. And so, it's an affordable, mid 20,000s. It's customizable, like you said, goes from a 2-door, 2-seat truck to a 5-seat SUV. And here's the thing that, is sort of the thing we don't say as much out loud because we just show it, but it's fucking cool looking. Like, it's a great looking truck. And I think that, something we talk about internally is that when I got in one for the first time, during my interview process 2.5 years ago, I sat in it. I was instantly in my uncle's late 80s Tacoma pickup in my mind. And there's something beautifully nostalgic about that moment. Part of it is just the form factor. Part of it is the clean dash with no screen. Like, you feel like you're in something that's a pure experience, and it's really nice. And I think people are going to resonate with that.
It's simple, but it does look like the inside of a Defender in a way. You know what I mean?
It's utilitarian. It's utilitarian,
I know it's not
for sure.
upscale like that,
Yeah.
but it is very well designed. It's not simple and like basic design. It's like simple, but really good design.
It's not cheap, right?
Yeah.
It's not cheap. Right. It's affordable. And there's a big difference. What I love about this company is that we believe that the world needs this, that people need simple, affordable transportation, and that a truck is, incredibly functional for most people. And we bet on that big, and it's worked. I mean, I think at the beginning of this call, you said, 100,000 reservations. We're over 160,000 now. Like, it's climbing. And so, we went in on a bet that the world wanted this, that America wanted this. And it continues to be proven out, by people putting down actual cash for reservations.
Is it the simplicity that appeals? Is it the price? Is it that you can customize it, like you kind of make it your own, versus like it comes in, one of 3 flavors, like you can pick the colors, you add all the components you want, you can make it, turn it into an SUV. What do you think it is that is driving and obviously the reservations it's pretty low commitment to sign up.
It's low commitment. Yeah. I think it's all of the above. And that's what's cool about it, is that means there are a lot of different audiences that this resonates with, right? Like, if you're a car nerd, the customization aspect is totally going to resonate with you. You're going to understand how that part works. But if you're not a car nerd, there are other ways to get the customization done. You don't have to do it yourself. But also, you can learn how to do it yourself. Like, there'll be simple things you can do, like just a decal this big on the side of the truck. All of a sudden, that thing feels like it's yours. It feels totally custom. And that's something you can do in your driveway, no problem, for a very reasonable cost. And then I think, to your point, the affordability. Listen, affordability of vehicles in America is broken. This is, when we look at the price of what we call the blank slate, it's like half the average vehicle cost right now. And so I think this is something that Americans want. This is the reality, that most people don't want $1,000 car payment, on a $75,000 car. Like, that's not sustainable. So giving people reliable transportation at a reasonable price point, that, guess what? Once they love it, it can grow with them.
And it looks cool.
And the grow with them is huge, right? Like, so let's say you buy this, you're a single guy or gal, and you love the pickup truck. A year later, you get a partner, maybe get a dog. You throw in the SUV kit, and guess what? For a very reasonable price, you've turned this thing into a 5-seater, and it grew with you. Find me another car that does that. There isn't one, right? You've got to commit, and you're stuck with what you got. So the fact that this thing can be flexible, and then by the way, if your whole life goes south on you and goes sideways, take the SUV, go back to the truck, and live your life single again. So it can live many lives, and I think that change that it can do. I mean, that's new to the industry.
What makes the business model on the Slate side work that maybe other EV companies get wrong? Like, what's that company, Fisker?
Yeah.
The Ocean, beautiful car,
yeah.
went bust. They went out of business. Now you see,
now it'd be your Uber in the city, right?
Yeah, it's Uber in the city. Yeah, like that company, which made a great product, but obviously went belly up. So, what is Slate doing that's different?
I think a big part of it is by focusing on the simplicity of the vehicle. It means that our manufacturing process is significantly less complicated than most vehicles. So if you think about a Fisker or any car, a Toyota, any vehicle in the world, you got to pick a paint color, you pick a trim level, and you pick a stereo. And when that vehicle's got to go through the factory, it goes like this. It's got to go to all the right stations and all the right places to get all its things. And that's a very complicated process. Every Slate that comes off the line is exactly the same. So our manufacturing process is the same for every vehicle, and the customization happens post-manufacturing. So we're able to focus on the fundamentals and make the truck really, really wonderful as it is in its blank slate form, and then accessorize as needed. And that level of simplicity is not something that other auto manufacturers are willing to go down that path for.
When you join something early, pre-revenue, you're trying to drive awareness, get those reservations. What are some of the early creative decisions that you have to make that make the highest impact?
I'm gonna modify that answer a little bit, because I think that before you make a single creative decision, nothing matters more than the people. When I started, I had a team of like 7 or 8 that I inherited. And 2 of those people are still leaders on my marketing team today, and they're absolutely amazing. But then I built out the remainder of the marketing team, the remainder of the leaders, and the people are everything. I mean, I trust my team completely to get great work done, and they deliver every day. And so I think that I was lucky to inherit a couple incredible leaders and the entire team underneath them. And I hired people who I knew from my past life that I could trust in a lot of places. I genuinely brought my personal A team to this game, and it makes every difference because I can look at these people and go, I've known you for 10 years. Get it done, dude. And we're on the same page, and it's going to get done. And there is enormous power in that. And as a company, it means that we all move forward aligned, we understand each other, and it means the work is excellent. I mean, it is, there's no world I can overstate how important that building the team was in the early time.
So the first creative decision is a people decision.
That's it.
It's a talent decision, not what you put into the market.
That's next, man. If you don't have good people, you got no shot.
How do you architect a brand like Slate without the brand feeling too simple and generic, but giving it like energy and, mojo?
I mean, the reality is, I think we talk about this almost every day, because brands, as they scale, they want to fall to the middle. They want to fall to safety, right? You want to start, looking at the numbers of what works and just doing it over and over again, and you stop taking chances. And for us, the thing I push all the teams on every day is like, what's something uncomfortable we can put out in the world? What's something that we're not sure if will resonate with people, but feels right to us about how the brand should represent itself, that we put out into the world? Let's see what happens. You have to look at your industry as competitive with everything, right? You know this. We're competitive with Netflix. We're competitive with TikTok. We're competitive with sleep. We're competitive with walking your dog. We're competitive with listening to this podcast. And so for us to get your attention, we've got to keep gambling on new ideas that have no precedent for working, which is terrifying, right? And I talk to the team all the time, and we talk about the fact, like, we tried that one, it didn't work. Didn't work. Wasn't great. You know what? I'm so glad we tried it. I'm so happy we put that out in the world and saw how the audience responded. And let's learn from it and try again. Let's tweak. Let's do another one. Let's push it again. I think that as brands scale, they get very scared and precious, and you lose that edge. And, I'm working really hard every day to not lose that edge for how we communicate and the stuff we put out into the world. It's got to stay fun. It's got to stay engaging. It's got to stay, representative of the brand that we're building every day.
So a big way is how you launched Slate to the world, which is not what other auto brands would do. There's no logo, there's no big curtain reveal, there's no like specs and, information. You just kind of dropped a car in LA. And tell me why you had the balls to do that and how you thought that would work for a brand that's no one's ever heard of.
Yeah. I mean, listen, part of it was, like you said, we had to do things differently. We had to take a chance on trying things, that the auto industry has never seen before. And so, as I was saying, what, again, how do you picture a new car launch? Headlights in the dark, sheet over a car, that kind of stuff. But so we looked at it and said, how do we break every rule? How do we do something that any other auto brand would say, that's not how it's done. That's unacceptable. And so what's the number one rule is you don't show the vehicle until the moment it's on stage and it's glossy and it's spinning or whatever. And we said, let's do the opposite. Let's put it out on the curb without branding, by the way. And let's see how the world reacts. And so what we did was we wrapped the truck, customized the truck for a bunch of fake businesses, including one that was, offering to taxidermy your family, one that would offer to drive your babies to sleep. It was called Cry Share, but that one had car seats on the roof. And so sitting there on the curb, we heard people come up and walk by. I heard one person come by and they're sitting there and they're chatting. The car seats are on the roof and it says Cry Share. We drive your baby to sleep. And guys like, maybe they like the wind in their face. Maybe that helps them sleep. And so people are buying into this theory, right? That what is this? And, we took that chance and it was a big chance and it was very nerve wracking, but it was also incredibly coordinated. And this is the thing, right? We made it look like we dropped these things on the curb with no plan and just really hoped it worked out. The reality is, we had it planned down to the hour as best we could, right? And so I remember getting a call from someone inside the company, inside Slate, saying, can you believe that so-and-so influencer just posted about this, about the truck on the curb, about the Slate, and that this other news article wrote about it? And I said, yeah, every single one of those was coordinated down to the hour. We haven't slept in days, and these are all lined up to try and build momentum for this thing for the multiple days it was on the curb. And so we changed it out overnight every night. So there was a new reason to come by every day. And when you came by, you'd see it. And we had different influencers and different news media come by, write about it, speculate. And so that really did build the momentum throughout the course of that time that it was on the curb. And it built a lot of speculation. And listen, the internet did what the internet does best. The internet loves to solve a mystery. And they figured it out. They figured out that weird, everyday changing vehicle on the curb was Slate. And it was amazing. And it was a big gamble that we thought the internet would figure it out.
Was that Reddit that figured it out?
It's a good question. So about a couple weeks before, it was 3-4 weeks before, Reddit got a spy shot of one of our trucks being offloaded at our studio in Long Beach. And it was, this spy shot was, I promise you, we did not plan this. We did not plant this leak. No, I wish I could tell you we did. And you know what? Maybe with some more time passing, I'll start telling people I did, but I absolutely did not. But this spy shot was from an office building across the street, across the way. The truck's a little blurry. It's, a little out of focus. It's a little far away. It was the perfect spy shot. And, what is this car on Reddit? Went nuts trying to figure it out. They had a ton of guesses. They did eventually. They figured it out, but they don't know they were right? They don't know that they've nailed it. But what was amazing was when we put the car on the curb, all those threads came back and we got the perfect circle that I believe every marketer in the world wants. How many times have you said, well, we'll plant it on Reddit And then later they'll figure it out. It never works. No one ever actually does. It never actually happens. But we did it, and it actually worked because those threads became fodder for media and for influencers to talk about it and say, hold on, we have this spy picture. We have this thing that happened on Curb. We think these are the same, and we think both of them are Slate. And we think this might be a vehicle launch, but we're not totally sure.
How do you then think about, now what do we do? Like, how do you think about what the second act is and how you keep people frothing for Slate, even though you still then have like another year before there's any products live? How do you think of like still chumming the waters?
It's absolutely been a long-term learning experience in that, we thought, okay, what are people really going to want? They're going to want the fun, funny brand. They're going to want the really cute, interesting stuff from us. They're just going to want to be entertained. We want to entertain people and keep them excited about the thing. And it was like, well, we may have underestimated our audience a little bit because they were like, no, you're a car. Tell me facts about the car. Give me hard facts about the car.
So one big learning is you can have a mysterious launch that people, you engineer people connecting the dots, and that's successful and you get a lot of press and PR. But you also need to deliver the meat and potatoes to the audience also. And you can't just do like stunt. You also have to deliver the goods, right?
It's such an interesting point you bring up, because something we did at the reveal that we don't talk about very much is we actually launched with multiple pieces of marketing content at the time. And they had two different jobs. So one was our sort of hero brand advertising video that really set the tone of voice. And that was the one around a guy who runs a business where you can taxidermy your family members when they die. And he loved the truck. He loved its flexibility. He would rewrap it in different ways. He was sort of bumbling, and it was great and had shock value and was an awesome story that got a ton of conversation going and really set the tone for the brand going forward. But something we don't talk about as much is we launched a second hero video that really just explained what the truck was and how it worked. And the magic of that second video was that whenever every influencer, car person, talking head needed content to chop up so that their floating head could point above them and go, look at this thing that's just launched, they chopped up the other video. They chopped up the informational video. And that became the thing, that content that like fed the engine, the broader social and media engine of like, what are we going to show when we're talking about this thing, and where can I pull images from? Where can I pull cool video from? So it was brandy, voicey stuff separated from information and facts. Both done in a really fun way. And for those people who remember Great Big Story and you watch the hero video that has all the facts in it, you'll see that I use some old Great Big Story storytelling tricks in there. But that second video became the one that was like, everybody used it as a reference point to talk about the truck, and it was everywhere for a little while. So there's this, that was a very hardworking video for us. It didn't do as much from us from a brand lift and a brand voice perspective, but they both had their jobs, and we gave them both jobs, and they both did them. And, that was one that we just banked on. We were like, the thing about a new vehicle like this with the customization is there's a ton of education. It's not, it's not 100% straightforward how this thing works. Like, what do you mean it turns into an SUV? What do you mean you can wrap it in any color you want? Like, what are you talking about? My car doesn't do that. And so we did both at the same time.
So when you think about brand versus performance and where to put the money and how to spend on that, how do you think about that in a nascent brand? Like when the brand launches and you're delivering, you might have better metrics on performance and what you need to do. I guess how do you think about it as a newer brand, that idea of building brand, but also delivering performance?
The brand is everything. It's how we differentiate. And as every marketer knows, and I learned on the job, like I said, when we're successfully building awareness, when we're successfully driving conversation online in a bunch of different ways, it makes all those performance dollars work harder, right? And so that's a big part of how we balance it. But listen, I've worked at brands before where the ratio was unbelievable. And the amount of money you would spend on growth and performance marketing was many, many multiples what you would spend on brand. And the issue that when you get that lopsided is that you're going to, you're a race to the bottom as far as spending goes. So you've got to continue to build brand for your performance to be functional at all, for it to be a worthy investment, right? And that's very much how we think about it. Like we're constantly, I mean, daily checking our performance metrics and making sure that it's a worthy investment, that the money is well spent. We don't have the budgets of traditional auto by any means. And so we are incredibly careful with every dollar and every penny. And that means that when we spend performance dollars, they have to return and they have to reap the benefits of the brand work we do every day.
I want to hear your Rockefeller Center rebrand story.
Oh, man. Yeah. So this was at Known. Rock Center was a client of Known's. We had taken Rockefeller Center away from Pentagram. So, the hallowed halls of brand design that are Pentagram. And we'd won the business away. And when you take something that is an absolute New York icon and from somewhere like Pentagram, best in class brand building, one of the first things we proposed was, it's time for a rebrand because you're Rockefeller Center, which is crazy. And in one of our very early presentations to the CMO over there, it was going terribly. I mean, we bombed, we failed, we missed the mark. And it was uncomfortable and it was difficult. But during the conversations, I was sitting at this desk and I had in front of me one of those notes that says your mortgage is changing to another bank, right? Like, I don't know, sitting on my desk probably forever. And I'm just doodling as we're talking and the things are going terribly. And I doodled this little logo and I was like, I think that's the answer. I think it's here. And took a picture of it, sent it to my creative director. And I was like, I think the answer is in here somewhere. And listen, we did our diligence. We presented dozens of logos. We went through all the right process. We did not tell them this was the answer. We did all the explorations. But that logo that I drew on that little piece of paper ultimately became the Rockefeller Center logo. The proportions are a little different, but I mean, that's it. And now it's everywhere. It's like, in metal poured in cement. Like it is there. It is there for the duration.
Is it just those like the line?
Yeah. The lines like this, the sort of U shapes. Yeah.
That's wild.
So simple, but it was one of, it was my moment where I was like, I know what this is supposed to be. I could feel it. I could feel what it wanted to be. And I just had to get it out. And, again, we did tons of exploration. We went broad with it. We did not, give this one any more benefit than any of the other ones. But it did end up being the logo, and it's a pretty cool experience.
What did that experience teach you?
Trust your gut.
You just knew that was right.
If my gut feels like something is really, really right or really, really wrong, you gotta listen.
Yeah,
you gotta listen. And most people don't. I'd ignored it many, many times, and I'd learned, at Great Big Story. I remember thinking, man, my gut told me this was wrong, and we did it anyway, and now it's not working. I don't remember what it was, but it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, learn from this, adjust, trust your gut when you feel it really strong.
With clients we work on, we're doing some big new launch coming out next week, and that thing has been tested to death. You just have you learned that your gut is usually right and you don't necessarily need to test it?
I think I'd modify what you say a little bit. I think it's gut with guardrails.
Okay.
Like, make sure your guardrails are in place. Make sure you know where the limits are. Make sure you understand if you're breaking a rule, why you're breaking it. Then go with your gut. And then after that, measure the hell out of it.
Okay.
So that's the thing. I think you've got to, you do have to trust your gut, especially building a new brand, especially where testing and optimizing and understanding how your brand is going to be, understood in the world. You've got to try some stuff that's pure gut. But if you don't learn from it and you don't optimize afterwards and you don't run metrics on it afterwards, then it wasn't worth it, right? If you can't learn from the gut experience, then what are you doing? Then you're just shooting in all directions and hoping something works out. That's no good.
And if you had to give a piece of advice to somebody who was maybe on the creative side or strategy side, not necessarily business side going into brand marketing, but kind of a similar windy career path like you've had, what would that advice be?
Understand the impact on the business. I think that so many creatives are in the game for it to look cool, for it to feel trendy, for it to win an award. And the way you level up is you go, oh, this moved the business in this direction for this reason because of this, right? Like that's the unlock that I had when, I was loving design. I was loving building brands. I was loving driving creative. I could talk about that stuff all day. I still can. But once I was like, oh, I need to tie this to business results one way or the other. That was the unlock for me. So even if you're purely in a creative field and you're on the creative side of things and you look around and you go, you know what? We changed that color from red to blue. And I think twice as many people are clicking. Let's go find out. Go do the work. Ping somebody on the other side of the company you don't talk to all the time. Find out what the output was. Find out what the effect was. Bring that logic back into your next decision making. And guess what? You're going to have an ironclad way of getting your great design through if you can say, look what I learned. Every time we change it to blue, 20% of this. Well, let's go do that again. Let's test it again. All of a sudden, you're having a conversation about what's good for the business and not what looks cool. And that's a much easier conversation to have with leadership. Finally,
do you have a mantra or a quote that Ben Whitla thinks about or that guides how you work?
Back to my dad growing up, he was a carpenter. I told you I worked construction for him. And I remember I was sawing something. And as I said, I was not a skilled carpenter. This was not my calling. And I was trying to saw through something and I was forcing it. I was trying to make the saw faster than it should. And my dad was like, whoa, let the tool do the work. And I think about that all the time because I translate that to trust your leaders, trust your people, let the work come out and see how it performs. Like let things happen. Take a breath, let the tools do the work, let the people do what they're great at. Trust them to do it. I think about that all the time.
That's one way not to second guess or micromanage. If you've got the right people, which was your first comment, is
That's
before
true.
you think about any ideas, it's about the talent. Once you get the right talent, let the talent cook.
Let the talent cook, baby. That's it.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for being on the Soul and Science podcast. It's going to be a great episode. We appreciate the time.
It's a blast. Thanks for having me.
Soul and Science is a Mechanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.